thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kay Thompson, and this is the newest episode of A Lesson in Real Estate. So I thought I would come and bring some new information to you today in today's lesson, something that most of us probably have not even seen or that knows it exists as it relates to housing. If you have been alive in the last 5 years, then you realize that we have been experiencing here in the United States a severe housing shortage. In fact, the Wall Street Journal News is stating that based on their projections and trajectories and the data and research that they've committed shows that we need about 5.5 million homes in the U.S. in order to balance our real estate market. The shortage is due to a number of things, actually a myriad of things, and that we could go into, but I won't for the purposes of today's lesson, because I think it's, something that can actually change how we do business, and it can definitely be used to help, if not completely solve, our housing shortage crisis. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on that 5.5 million. We actually were falling short of the number of housing units that we've needed year over year since about 2010 or 2001, I'm sorry. And U.S. builders on average added about 1.225 million housing units each year between 2001 and 2020. And according to a report completed by the National Association of Realtors and the Rosen Consulting Group, that figure has come down from the annual average prior, which was 1.5 million units. And those were built from 1968 until 1920. So from 2001 till today's date, we have seen a decline in the number of available houses being sold, partly because construction has been down. Now, construction actually did take a much greater hit these last few months. I would say the last 18 or so months because of COVID. And then we've also had some changes as it relates to supply chains and our abilities to get certain items that may be exported or imported, I should say, from other countries. And that has also slowed the process for home building. On top of that, we have a shortage of available humans to help to build some of these units that we need. The scale of the problem as it relates to the shortage in housing is such a big scale. It's going to take, in my opinion, a multitude of things to help mitigate the issue and to ultimately solve the problem. So like I said, from 1968 to the year 2000, we were building about 1.5 million homes each year. These are new construction homes. And then after 2001, that amount of homes that were being built that was new construction sort of trickled. Some of that could be contributed to the 2008 housing crisis that we experienced, where more than 26 million people lost their homes due to foreclosure. And so people were looking to get a deal. It was definitely a buyer's market at that time. And people were looking to get a deal. You can buy a home that's been foreclosed on, unfortunate for the person who experienced the foreclosure. But for the right buyer, that home meant that they would be able to get into a place that they could live at for some time without as much cost as they were expecting. And so that is part of the reason why the construction starts failed as well. And there was other things that have contributed to the decline of the amount of available housing we have. We have blight in so many of our major metropolitan areas. In areas where people just don't want to live. In the cities that I live in, we have a few areas where everyone is dying and clamoring to get to, instead of taking the time to see what possibilities they can bring to, say, an older neighborhood where there may be, less than desirable housing for any number of reasons. It could be that it's too small. It could be that it doesn't have the same number of bathrooms. It could be that, it's just not an area that they think is desirable. But there's lots of things in the works that are going around where people are actually looking to solve this crisis. One of the things one of the main things that we hope that people do are totally obvious. The first thing is we expect the builders to build more and faster, bigger and faster. Well, they have to have the manpower to do that. And right now, like I said, there is a shortage of the amount of people available to build new construction on such a scale. Also, because of inflation and, like I said, disruptions in the supply chains and other things of that nature, other logistical reasons, we have not been able to acquire all the things that we would need for a house to build it, I should say, as quickly as we would like. You've probably seen in the last few months that there were stories about there being a shortage on wood. I've heard some builders say they were short nails. Appliances is also a big, heavy issue where there's been shortages throughout the last 12 to 18 months that have delayed the housing starts and the housing completions when it comes to new construction. The other thing is buyers, or sellers, I should say, are just staying put. Some sellers are comfortable in the home that they own. They're not really looking to sell. And the third issue is, where are they going to go if they do sell? So that is a dilemma, and that's keeping lots of people in the place that they've been, and instead of incentivizing them to move forward to purchase bigger so that we could have more starter homes, and you get the gist. So going from smaller to bigger to biggest, or from good to better to best, when it relates to that. And there's also causing this situation also causes ripple effects. So the same thing that's affecting home buyers and sellers is also affecting renters, because people are staying put as there is nowhere to go. Renters are doing the same thing. So renters aren't looking necessarily to take the leap towards home purchase because either they can't afford it, there's not a home available that suits their needs, or if they're looking to move on to renting another place, the rents are typically too high for some borrowers in a situation like this. And it is the case for this particular situation, just because there's such an extreme shortage. And it really, really showed up last year, like I said, with, COVID and, that making and bringing so much uncertainty into the situation. People were afraid to move. Builders were afraid to buy land and things of that nature, because we just didn't know how that was going to turn out. And the other avenue that I would like to explore and remind people of is that we have quite a large population of homeless in America that, face sleeping on the street every night. And on a single night, studies show that more than 500,000 Americans go homeless. They either sleep with a family member or friend, someone who's taking them in for the night, or they are sleeping on the literal street. Americans, the percentage of Americans that are actually going homeless and meeting or finding themselves in either situation that I just described represents about 0.2% of our population. Of those homeless persons, 65% of them are sheltered, but there's 35% of this 500,000 people that are sleeping outside. And so, it's equally hard, or much more difficult, I should say, not equally, but much more difficult for them to find fair, decent, and proper housing that is affordable. So you're probably asking, well, how can we solve this problem and how long it's going to take? Well, the first thing is I can say based on what we have in place right now as far as tools and materials and just the sheer number of people that are available to build new construction. We're looking at between 6 and 13 years for the housing market to balance, and that is according to the National Association of Realtors. They're expecting between 6 to 13 years before we're able to see a balance if we just focused on building new construction. And that's building new construction in the traditional way. And so there is a company called 3M Printing that has come up with what I think is a phenomenal idea. And I think it could really, really solve quite a few of the problems that we're having right now as it relates to the housing market. And I think that it deserves more attention. And we need to work collectively as communities, individuals in our respective communities, to kind of bring this type of solution to our cities and states. So you're probably wondering, what in the world is she talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you, 3M is a printing company, or was a printing company. They probably still are, but there's a company, they have a leg of their company that does what we call 3D print housing. Now, if you have never heard of 3D print housing, I'm going to give you a very simple definition of what it is. There's not lots of definitions out there because, like I said, this is truly a new phenomenon that is not on most people's radar. But if you can see the value in it, then it could definitely be on your radar, and you can start a trend to help us to solve our housing crisis and bring affordable, fair, and decent and well-built housing to Americans. So 3D print housing is construction where a 3D printer is used. So in essence, what they do is they take a blueprint or a floor plan, something like you would see when you walk into a builder to pick a home for a subdivision. They take that and they put it into a nice computer, and this computer turns that photo into a 3D print so that you're able to see all corners, all aspects, all areas of the home. And then it takes that same photo, and they put it into another machine that physically builds the house. So you're probably thinking, how is that really going to help us in the housing shortage? So where it takes a builder, when there's a balanced market, on average of 3 to 4 months, sometimes they can do it a little faster, sometimes it takes a little longer. Weather and things of that nature play a big role in how quickly you can get your home built from the ground up, or how soon they can finish the job. With this 3D print housing, basically it can take, depending on the size of your home, if you're building like a tiny house or something like that, you could probably get a whole entire tiny house built in about a day or two, give or take. If you're building a more traditional style home, one that fits a larger family, say, a husband, wife, or spouses, and, a couple of kids and a dog, you're probably looking at between 1 to 2 weeks. And that's me really giving a stretch on the time frame for that, 1 to 2 weeks. And of course, if you're looking to build bigger structures, it would take more time. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying that there's not a lot of these houses currently available in America. I believe the very first 3D print house was built in Arizona. And I'm going to show you some slides in just a minute that kind of give you an idea of what these properties look like. They can be gorgeous. They can be very unique. They don't have to be cookie cutter houses like you see in so many subdivisions where builders build. And like I said, the goal of this company, 3M, is to cut in half the amount of time that it takes to build a home, and they're hoping to build for way less cost than it takes. So with the 3D print homes, you can use multiple things to build these homes, but my favorite has been the concrete homes that they've been building with this particular method. And the reason that I like the concrete version is because, for one, the concrete is very, very energy efficient. I know a lot of people are just like, I don't want a concrete house. It's, but I'm telling you, concrete is a very, very energy efficient product for housing. And with the 3D print, what you're going to have is you're going to have walls that are kind of the machine just follows the patterns of the picture, and you'll have walls there where you can put in insulation if you wanted to do that. You could fill it with pretty much any type of insulation that you wanted, and you would have energy conservation because the concrete is going to hold the heat in the wintertime, and it's also going to keep you cool in the summertime. Concrete is like a conductor, so it actually pushes the elements or the heat or the air around to give you more of an even feel of coolness or heat throughout your house. It'll definitely save on your electric bill. And like I said before, these properties do not have to be cookie cutter. You can design any type of home that you want, and they look great. They can be painted. You don't have to worry about every few years having to repaint your house because it's a wood frame, or having to go out ever so often and pressure wash your house because it's vinyl siding or aluminum siding, although concrete does and can get dirty. I'm just saying you wouldn't have to do so much of that if you were able to take advantage of one of these homes. So the homes are sturdy also. They can withstand a multitude of different things that happen in the weather. So they are, for the most part, able to withstand, tornadoes, hurricanes. You don't have to worry about your home being blown away in the event that something like that, happens. Most of these homes are also built on a slab foundation that is concrete, so you can be rest assured that you won't have any issues with that. You can put in all the kinds of gorgeous and wonderful finishes that you want in these homes. You can put, your granite countertops, hardwood flooring in them, and it's something that you can make your own, just like any other house. So I say that with this great technology, if we were employing it enough in the cities that we live in, then we could definitely solve a lot of our real estate issues with just this one tool. Like I had mentioned before, we have cities, major metropolitan cities, that are full of blight. And they have properties that are sitting on these lots that cannot be restored. They have to be torn down. This is a great opportunity to put something more sturdy in the place of that old raggedy shack, and it can help bring value to the neighborhood and make it just as beautiful as it was when the first house was built. The other thing that I'd like to say is that, with the homeless population being what it is, we should be able to, or we could use this method to provide temporary housing that's more sturdy to people who are finding themselves sleeping outside or staying with a friend. I'm not saying build a big mega mansion or, but the idea or concept of a tiny house, something that's between 600 and 800 square feet that a person could live in as transitional housing, is also very ideal. In different countries, they are starting to erect these houses. They're doing that more often in the other countries than over here in the United States, partly because in certain countries there are more people who stand in need of housing that is safe and affordable. I think it was Argentina I read, where they have some people who are living in tents that don't have doors. They're all cloth. Or there's some other issue. They can't run electricity to it because it's not structurally sound. And these little properties that they're building in that area. Well, they actually built a whole subdivision, and it cost them on average about $4,000 per property. So if we were able to build a subdivision and put up a bunch of little tiny houses to help our homeless, a first-time home buyer, or a retired person to transition from the state of living and the home that they have to something like this, it would make all the difference in the world. And like I said before, there are a multitude of things that we could solve with this issue, with this technology. Like I said, we can clean up blighted neighborhoods. We can create new neighborhoods. We can build all of these structures very, very quickly, so we could drastically decrease the amount of people that are homeless in this area, and it would help us to really, really balance our shortage of inventory and bring pricing back down to a place that is acceptable and comfortable for everyone. Negotiations can go back to normal, and then people can really, really get what they're paying for. So, with that being said, I'd like to let you know also that this is just one type of non-traditional housing that I'd like to bring to you. We have all sorts of unique ways to create housing in America and abroad. And so I'll spend the next few episodes, 3 or 4, sharing some of those with you. I wanted to start with 3D print housing, though, because I do realize that it is something that most people have never heard of. And until you can lay eyes on it yourself, then it's probably not fathomable. And you're probably, like I said, really wondering, where you could go to get started with this. There's lots of videos on YouTube, because you guys know I'm very much a sucker for, sharing information with you that you can go and look up for yourself. But in the last year on YouTube, they've done quite a few different types of videos that explain the 3D print housing. It shows you, there's videos there that show you how the machine works. Just a few weeks ago, they did a video and a news segment on MSNBC about the 3D housing and how it could change the face of real estate in Arizona. If you remember at the beginning of the broadcast, I said that Arizona was the first state to ever get one of these type of homes built. And you can also see reactions from buyers who are considering purchasing a print or 3D print home in the Arizona area. For them, just like for everyone else in America, right now times are hard when it comes to being able to find a property that you can actually pay the list price for and that is actually worth it, and where you can really work to negotiate with your seller to create a win-win situation, something that everybody can be proud of. And so I urge you to go to YouTube, and all you have to do is type in 3D print housing, and you'll see lots of videos about it. And you'll see certain, like I said, news segments that speak about it, and you can learn more about it. And you'll also get to see some of the really nice photos that they have out there that show you the exterior of the property, sure, but what some of the wonderful things people have done to the inside of their properties to make them unique and more their own are doing as well. So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me for this lesson. Again, my name is Kate Thompson, and this has been a lesson in real estate. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and just be safe. Bye now.